So I want to thank everybody who's joining us today. My name is Dr. Michael Fernandez. I'm a physical therapist with Kinetic Physical Therapy. Joining me today is TPI Performance Certified Dr. Jeff Kurtz. This is part two or a follow-up to Jeff's discussion on maximizing or optimizing your golf swing. If you haven't seen the first part of the lecture, you can see that on our YouTube page at Kinetic. If you search for Kinetic TV, follow the Kinetic logo, and you'll be able to see Jeff talk about those things. He also demonstrates some great exercises, which I've actually been using with some of my patients ever since we did the webinar. So Jeff, I've stolen a few good ideas from you, so I appreciate that. And I'll turn it over to you, and you can take it from here.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to consider that you just borrowed them because I'm sure that you'll give back some new ones for me once we talk next. So, yeah, so today I'm going to talk about optimizing your warm-up. A lot of people that I talk to, I ask them, how do you warm up for your golf round? And a lot of my friends say, I pop a few Advil liquid gels in the parking lot and then crack a beer open. That's my warm-up. Which is funny in a sense, but at the same time, I started to dive into the research behind, using a warm-up, an efficient warm-up for prior to your golf round. So today I'm going to talk a lot about, whether we should be stretching or not stretching, because I've heard a lot about, well, I just stretch before I warm up, but a lot of us aren't doing the correct stretching. So the simple answer to the question to stretch or not to stretch is that you should be not doing static stretching. So static stretching is basically if you just bent down to touch your toes and stretch your hamstrings and then just held it there for 10 or 15 seconds. We actually want to avoid that with golf and a lot of power related activities. So if you think about jumping, that's where we look a lot at power and whether we should stretch before something like that. And actually we should be avoiding it. The concept behind that is we don't want to overstretch a muscle where we actually start to lose some of the tension in the muscle fibers. So in terms of a golf swing, static stretching has been shown to decrease power by 28% in the first hour and then 9% after the first hour. So if you're golfing for about 4 hours, the first time you swing your golf club off the first tee, if you've statically stretched beforehand, you're actually decreasing your power output by about 28%. So, if you see anybody golfing that you're friends with and they start stretching statically, let them know that that's probably not the right type of stretching that you're doing prior to golf. So another study looked at dynamic stretching or resistance band warm-up. So dynamic stretching would be what the young lady on the left there is doing, which is stretching those muscles, but more so warming them up and trying to get those muscles to start to activate so that they're ready that first time you go to swing your golf club, right? So I want you to think of that more as a warm-up rather than stretching. So a 5-minute dynamic stretching or resistance band warm-up have actually been shown to increase your ball carry distance by over 5 yards. So if every time you swing that driver, you're adding your ball carry distance by 5 yards, that's a significant difference that you might get an advantage over somebody you're playing or just your normal output of power. Static stretching, going back to static stretching, has actually been shown to be as efficient as not stretching. So if you statically stretch, you're just as efficient as not stretching at all. So if you had to choose between static stretching and not stretching, it really doesn't make a big difference. Whereas if we start a golf round with dynamic stretching or resistance bands warm-ups, you can actually increase how much power you're able to develop through your golf swing. Not only does it increase how fast you swing, but it's actually been shown to increase your ball striking as well as the path of the golf club to the ball. So not only are we swinging faster, we're also making better contact with the ball, and that carries over to that increased carry distance when you're golfing. So now that we've developed, an idea of what we should be doing in terms of stretching, I'm going to go through what'll end up being about a 15-minute warm-up, 10 to 15-minute warm-up before your golf round, which, I ask all my golfers to kind of participate in. That way your body is ready for the 4-hour round of, really swinging about 300 times, right? If you think about what we're doing for a golf swing, we're swinging about 300 times because we all average about 2 or 3 warm up swings, and then once you actually swing, you know, that adds up to about 300 swings. So I like to start from the ground up. So here is basically what we've said here is that let's stop all that static stretching and start moving towards more of a dynamic warm up. So again, starting from the ground up, I like to start with the calves. So this is a 3-way calf stretch. All right, so you're kind of lunging across your body. And again, we're not trying to hold that stretch. We're just trying to activate that muscle a little bit. Right, and we're going out, in front, and across. After about 5 of those, then I like to get right into some quick heel raises. So this is single leg heel raises, really quick to get that muscle fired up. After about 10 on each side, that's where I'll just go to double leg heel raises. And then your calves are primed and ready, which actually do a lot more during a golf swing than you realize. Now, in terms of holding on to something for your balance, you know, if you have a club that you like to hold on to, or if you're using a golf cart that day, you can just hold on to the golf cart. So now we're starting to get those quads, the hips and the quads and the hamstrings all warmed up. So these are just some simple leg swings. If you have a tough time remembering these, I'm going to patch these all together, and we'll post a separate video on YouTube and on our Facebook that just has the videos of the warm-ups instead of the introduction that we just recently did. So you can feel free to check out our YouTube channel or our Facebook page for, you know, a reminder on how to do some of these warm-ups. So these are called open the gate, close the gate. So this is a way to get that rotation of the hips to warm up a little bit. And again, I like to keep it active. I like to keep it moving. And you can go 10 steps for each leg in each direction. All we're doing here is I like to imagine that I'm trying to step over a fence or trying to step over a small trash can or something, and we're just bringing that hip around and over the trash can. And then on the way back, you just go the opposite direction and step over that trash can. This is another one to get that hip rotation. Again, hip rotation is one of the most important parts of being able to generate a long backswing and follow through. So this is where you could utilize your golf club to help you with the balance or hold on to the golf cart if you're using a golf cart. Try to stay nice and tall, and we're just rotating in and out on both hips. You should actually feel a stretch on both hips here. You start to get those glutes activated as you have to hold your balance too, so you should feel it a little bit in the glutes and the butt. Now as we're working our way up, we're starting to hit that thoracic spine. Again, one of the most important parts of your golf swing is that thoracic spine. So we start with some simple windmills. After about 10 of those, then I start to get the hips involved. Then following that, I like to make it basically what we do for our golf swing. So there's the backswing and there's the follow through. So really try to rotate over that forward hip. These are called Spieths, named after Jordan Spieth. So this is again some glute activation and then some upper back activation. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to dissociate your hips from your upper back. So the big emphasis of this warm-up is to make sure that those hips stay relatively neutral and stay relatively straight, and then rotate the upper back. After about 10 of those, I like to move into a golf position here. So I like to get a little bit of a hip hinge. Really pull that band together, pull those shoulder blades together. You'll see I squeeze those shoulder blades to really get that thoracic spine to warm up. If you don't have that band for the legs, you can just as well do it without the band for the legs. If you don't have any of the tubing that I'm holding in my hands, you can actually stop by our Collegeville location and we'll cut you out a band that you can easily store inside of your golf bag for your warm up. This is one of my favorite ones because again, we're warming up the upper body while trying to maintain that neutral posture. Working up to the shoulders and the neck. We actually don't realize how much we use our neck in terms of the golf swing. You'll see when somebody gets all the way to a backswing, our neck is pretty much rotated to the point where it's touching our front shoulder and then our back shoulder when we follow through. So we're working on shoulder mobility here. That way we can get the golf club all the way back during our backswing and follow through. That'll be about 30 seconds for the arm circles. And then just for some neck circles here, we're gonna go 10 times each direction. Trying to get full rotation here because again, during your backswing, your chin will end up meeting with that forward shoulder and essentially does neck rotation. Overhead squats. Now these are very good to get those glutes activated, get your arms up over your head while you're trying to, kind of forward lean. So this is a great one to get those glutes activated and get your lats stretched out or your back muscles stretched out. This is actually one of the TPI assessment, the physical functional tests that we ask during one of the TPI assessments. So we like to see that somebody is able to squat all the way down without letting their hands come forward. This is one that I actually fail, so this one will be a tough one if you come on in and get a TPI assessment. We'll see if you can do one of these front overhead squats. So that's our 10 to 15 minute warm up. Really if you just show up to the golf course 10 or 15 minutes early, just run through this before you even think about taking some practice swings at the driving range. This is one that you can do in the parking lot. Again, the effects of this warm-up are meant to last throughout your round. You see the effects the biggest within the first hour, but if this is something maybe at the turn between the 9th and 10th hole, if you run through some of these again, you might get the effects of that dynamic warm-up. What I'm asking everybody to do is to avoid that static stretching that we've all been taught to do, because you're most likely reducing your power output, and therefore reducing how long you can hit the ball, your ball striking ability, and let's all move towards a dynamic warm-up. Some of us have physical limitations that maybe need to be addressed with a little bit more specific warm-up. Say, for example, somebody has loss of upper back mobility. Maybe we need to stress that a little bit more before your golf round to make sure that you're maximizing and optimizing your body for that golf round that you have coming up. Because again, while we're all out there to have fun, we're all out there to have fun in a safe manner, in a manner in which we're performing at our best. So if we can all add 5 yards to our drive distance or hit the ball a little bit straighter by just simply doing a warm-up, I think that's the easiest way for us to all improve our games. Here's my contact information. Again, I'm doing TPI assessments. We're also going to be rolling out an off-season program to help improve your body and get yourself ready for the upcoming season. So that'll be in the winter months while everybody's hunkering down and not golfing. You can come on in once a week in a group and we are actually start to hit a lot of these impairments that I'll see frequently in all of our golfers. So feel free to reach out to me via email or give us a call to set you up with an appointment. Mike, thanks again for having me today. Do you have any questions for me?
No, Jeff, I think that's all good stuff. I mean, going back to the dynamic stretching, this is something that I think is applicable to a lot of athletes in a lot of sports. I mean, I think your typical warm up when you see, even see, professional athletes, NFL players, baseball players, all these guys doing a lot of static stretching. And I think that the dynamic warm up is something that really is applicable beyond everything, all of our athletes, not just our golfers. So I think it was good information and applicable for anybody.
Right. Static stretching can be effective afterwards as a cool down or when we're trying to increase our flexibility, maybe on our off days, but we should all try to avoid that static stretching before, like you said, our baseball players, anybody that has to perform some sort of power activity, that's where we need to move towards a dynamic exercise. So it's very applicable to not only golfers.
Yeah. So Jeff, I really appreciate you joining us. As we get closer to your off-season training program, we'd love to have you on, kind of talking a little bit about that a little bit more. And for anybody who kind of caught the tail end of this, the video will be posted on our YouTube page, so you can watch the full thing as well as Jeff's initial session on optimizing your golf swing. So Jeff, I really appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mike.